So welcome to yet another video on discrete mathematical structures, and in the previous videos we have already talked about sets. We looked into sets theory, or simply set theory, and then we saw some variants of sets which were like equal sets. We saw how to represent the sets in a couple of formats. One was your set builder format, which is also called as rule method, and then we had the tabular format or the roster format, post which we saw some basic terminologies, and we saw the details about the disjoint sets. We looked into cardinal number in a set. We had a discussion on your universal or empty set, and then universal set and empty sets are not same. These two things are different, right? One is the universe of discourse, which is including everything. Empty set is a null set, which does not include anything, a single thing. And we saw subsets. We saw a couple of theorems. We talked about superset. We talked about proper subset. We talked about some basic operations on subsets, which were your few basic operations, which were your union, intersection, and then complement, and the last one was symmetric difference, right? So today we are going to move a step ahead, and we are going to talk about representation, right? A representation. And representation will be of group of things and which are having some relationships. We will be formally talking about relations in this course, but at this moment of time, what we are trying to cover is that I have some values and there are some possible relationships among them, and these values are nothing but the values which are present in your sets. So today we are going to talk about Venn diagrams, and these Venn diagrams are nothing but the representation. And this Venn diagram is named after John Venn. So he invented your Venn diagram somewhere around 1880, where what we are trying to do is that we are going for the graphical, or you can say the pictorial representation of representation of relationships. Now these relationships, as I said, we'll formally once again cover when we'll talk about functions and relation in the upcoming unit. But at this moment of time, let's take that we have the diagrams where we are trying to represent the relationships. So these Venn diagrams, what these diagrams do is they give a logical representation, right? They give the logical representation of the group or sets, right? There exists some relationship among these sets, and that thing is represented using these diagrams. And if I have like 2 to 3 sets, then I can easily use these Venn diagrams for representing the relationship. And in case of mathematics, these Venn diagrams, in fact our subject is also discrete mathematical structure. So in case of mathematics, these Venn diagrams are used to analyze the information which we obtain from surveys, from the data reports, and obviously I'll have some tables as well. Right, so what we have is we use the sets and we represent it using these Venn diagrams. Now the point arises that what basically is the need of it, or the purpose of these Venn diagrams. So these Venn diagrams are very effective in portraying the similarities and even the differences between the data sets. So these Venn diagrams also describe the overlapping responsibilities of two or more teams, or you can call as sets, you can call it as the organizations as well. So what we do is, in case of Venn diagram, if suppose I have, let's say, two sets A and B, so my Venn diagram for disjoint sets will look like something like this. This is the universal set, and inside this I have one A and I have this set B. Now in this thing, your A and B are disjoint, and what we are doing is we are using circles to represent these two sets. We are using this square box to represent this universal set, or the universe of discourse. And since these two sets are disjoint sets, that means I have no common element. In that case, obviously there will be like some values inside this and some values inside this B, and these values are unique ones. So in that case, I'll be having two circles which are separated in this universe of discourse. Now, the next is when I have sets, let's say A and B once again, and these sets are not disjoint. That means some elements are common among these two sets A and B. So, in this case, how my diagram is going to look like, once again let me draw this universe of discourse or the universal set, and I have a set A and I have another set B, and you can see that there are some elements which are common in this, that means present in both these sets. So I'll be able to draw this diagram in this manner. So basically I am trying to depict the complex and theoretical relationships and even ideas for better and easier understanding. In this particular case, what I have is that I have some elements common among set A and set B, and these common elements are in this shaded area. That's why there is an overlap. Now, another thing which we can do is we can draw these diagrams for all the possible set operations which we have covered recently. So let's draw the Venn diagram for all those set operations one by one. But before that, I have a question. Now the question is that what is the importance of this particular Venn diagram and why we are giving so much focus and attention to this particular topic. So basically, Venn diagrams facilitate a clearer understanding of the infinite numbers and the real numbers, and that becomes very handy in mathematics. And these Venn diagrams are like very much ideal for illustrating the similarities and the differences, as we previously discussed, among the items or ideas when these circle overlap or are separate. So for taking some decisions, right, these can be some simpler decisions or some crucial decisions. What you can do is simply draw the Venn diagram and take a final call for it. For example, let's say if I want to choose a restaurant where I want to go for having dinner, then also in that case you can draw a Venn diagram. Right, but now the question is like when can I use these Venn diagrams? Like taking a call on visiting a restaurant is a very small thing, right? So if I'm trying to demonstrate the relationships in statistics, in probability, in linguistics, in computer science, I can very well use these Venn diagrams for these illustration purposes. Well, coming back to the same discussion of drawing the diagram for the set operations, so we'll cover those things. But before that, let me give you another idea. Looking at this particular thing, you might have got the idea that okay, we are depicting the common elements among A and B, so obviously this is something which is A intersection B, right? But formally we are going to cover in the next few slides, but just giving you an example so that you can try to connect this video with the previous video where we were talking about those set diagrams, or sorry, set operations. So to start with, what we have is, let's take the first operation, which is the set operation, where I am saying set B is a proper subset of A. Now that means I am getting a relationship of this sort, because right now I am talking about a proper subset, right? See, drawing the diagram, Venn diagram, is one thing. You may also come across understanding a Venn diagram, right? So from the Venn diagram, you have to understand the situation, right? So one is drawing the diagram for a particular situation, and vice versa is from a particular Venn diagram I am trying to draw out some conclusion. So that kind of situation also you can face. So for this particular set operation, where B is a proper subset, what we are going to see is that this is our universal set and this is my A, and since B is a proper subset, so that means B will have all the values which are there in A. So B will be somewhere here inside A, having those common values. Right, so this is for the operation where B is a proper subset of A. Now the next can be, let's take another example where I have the complement, right? We had a discussion on complement as well. So the complement of set A. So this thing is given by A prime or AC. In that case, you might have got an idea that okay, whatever is there in A, you exclude it from the universe of discourse. That would be the part of this particular set. So what we have is, let me draw it for you. Here, if I have a universal set U, within this I have, let's say, a set A. Now I have this A complement, that means whatever is there in A, exclude that part, and the remaining from the universe of discourse will be a part of this particular thing. So this is your complement of set A. Now the next one is the difference of set A and set B. That means I need to draw the Venn diagram for A minus B. So recall the discussion. That means I'll exclude the elements of B from A and the remaining part will be the difference or the set difference of A and B, which is A minus B. So let me draw the diagram once again for you. So on this side, once again, I have the universal set, our very own universal set. Within that, I have a set A. Within that, I'll have a set B. So my A minus B will be this part. The shaded area will be this A minus B, which is the difference of set A and set B. Now let's take some more examples, right? The union operation, right? We had a discussion on union operation as well, where we said, okay, let's include all the things. So the union of sets A and B. Sorry, this should be set. If I'm writing set here. So this is represented by our very familiar, now by this time you are familiar with these symbols. So I have this A union B, and the diagram will be something like this, where I have once again a universe of discourse or the universal set, inside which I have set A, I have set B, and the union will be everything. Everything means these portions. That means all the elements of A plus all the elements of B. Sorry, so I'm adding both these things. Now probably, since we saw the union operation, right, in this part we saw the union operation, so in the next part obviously we are going to talk about the intersection and it will be once again represented by a very familiar A intersection B symbol. For this, the diagram will be obviously equals to what we had in the previous case, except the shaded part will be different. So I have this A, I have this B, and my A intersection B will be this common area. That means the common elements among A and B. Once again, a very basic operation, set operation, and a very basic diagram. Just like we had covered informally in this part, where we said that okay, this is going to be my A intersection B. Now let's quickly take the last operation, which was the symmetrical difference of A and B. Represented by, once again, the same symbols. For this, we know that we have to exclude the common elements. So the diagram which we are going to get is, I have, let's say, A and B, so the elements will be these. I mean, I am excluding this area, right? So this particular area we are excluding. So by this, what it means is exclude the common elements. So from this, you might have got some idea that there is a difference and there is a relationship between the intersection operation and the symmetric difference of sets A and B. What I am trying to say is that there lies a relationship in case of A intersection B and the symmetric difference of A and B. That I am not going to tell, because that's something which is very simple, and by this time now I feel that you should be able to decipher that particular thing, because it's not that big deal. So this was all about the Venn diagrams for these set operations, and what you can do is that you can take some examples and you can try to draw the Venn diagrams. Now let's talk about algebra of sets. So there are many important relationships or the interrelationships among the set operations, and the law satisfied by the set operations from the algebraic laws of set operations are the following ones. So these are some of the laws of algebra of set. Some of you might be familiar with some of these things. So one is the idempotent law. So what it says is, if I have a set A, so A union A will be A only. and it makes sense also, right? We can have a proof as well, right? So if suppose I need to prove this, I can simply take an arbitrary element x which exists in A, so that would exist in both these A's, and obviously that would exist in A union A as well, and hence we can prove this particular part as well. Another version of it is that A intersection A is equals to A only. Right, because see, already I have some elements in A and I need to find the common elements among A intersection A, so obviously I'll get the entire A, right? So that's pretty simple. Now, next one is your associative laws. Next one is your associative laws. So what it says is, if suppose I have a set A union B union C, this will be equals to A union B union C. So it's nothing but it is giving us the idea about associativity, which everyone is familiar of. Now this was for union. Similarly, it holds true for intersection as well. That means A intersection B intersection C will be equal to A intersection B intersection C. Right, so this can also be proved, and once again using the same concept of taking an element x which exists in your A, and there will be a straightforward proof for this as well that we can see separately. Now, so this was about associativity. So once again you might have got an idea that there will be another law of algebra of sets that would be dealing with your commutative law, which is your the one which is dealing with the commutative nature. That means if I have two sets such that we have like A union B, so this will be equals to B union A, and it makes sense as well, right? It makes sense as well. So similarly, this was for union, so obviously I'm going to have the similar kind of law for intersection. So I have like A intersection B, which is equals to B intersection A. Right, so we are dealing with commutativity, and since we are talking about associative law, commutative law, so I'll also have a law for the distributive nature. That means I'll be dealing with the mixed operation of union and intersection. So what I have is, if A union B intersection C will be equals to A union B intersection A union C. This also makes sense. Similarly, I can have another option where I'll have A intersection B union C, which will be equals to A intersection B union A intersection C. So this was the distributive nature. Another law which we can have is the identity laws. So we have several options here. One is like A union null will always be A, and A intersection universal set will also be equals to A, because see, anyways here what we are trying to do is we are trying to find the common elements. So on one side I have null, on one side I have some elements which are there in A, so obviously I'll get those elements which are there in A. On this side I am doing intersection with universal set, so whatever is there in A, that means all the elements which are there in A will also be there in universal set. So once again I'll get A only, because I am trying to find the common elements. Now similarly or additionally, I can have like A union universe of discourse, that would be universe of discourse, right? So I'm trying to get all the elements. So obviously if I'm dealing with the universal set, so I'm getting everything. In that case, the resultant will be the universal set. And if I'm going for A intersection null set, so obviously I'm going to get a null set. The reason being, in this one I have summed up everything, that means I got the universe of discourse. In this I am trying to find the common elements between elements of A and null set, so obviously there will be null. And these set of laws are called as identity laws. Now there is another simple law which is your involution law. So what it says is, A prime whole prime will always be A. That means inverse of it will always be, so this is your complement's complement, right? So if I'm getting complement's complement, so I'm getting A in return, right? I'm getting A in return, and this particular part is called as your involution law. Now the next one is your complement laws. So obviously I will be dealing with complement. So what all options I have? One is that if I'm going for A union A complement, so I'm getting a universal set. That means I am doing the union and A has some element and A complement has all the elements which are there in universal set apart from A. So for this, if suppose I have to draw the Venn diagram, so what I am trying to say is this is universal set, this is A, so this is A and outside it I have A prime, so I am summing it. So what I am getting is I am getting entire universal set. I am getting entire universal set. That's what we see in this particular law. Another one is A intersection A prime. So once again I don't see any common element, so I will be getting a null set. Right, so what we are doing is on one side I have the elements which are there in A, on other side I have the elements which are not there in A just because of this complement. And if suppose I am going for the intersection of these two, so obviously I will not get any common element, and in that case I am going to get this null set only. I hope my explanation makes some sense. So another variant of this complement law is complement of universe of discourse is phi, which is null set. That means I have the entire universe and I am taking the complement, so obviously I am going to get a null set. And the last one in this section of complement laws is obviously the reverse of it. You might have got some idea by this time now, that if I am going to get the complement of null set, so obviously I am going to get the universal set. Right, so it's like in the reverse process. In some sense it's like the reverse engineering, right? So just imagine the usage of this complement law. So it's like it totally changes the scenario, right? I am getting a totally different version of it, right? So what we can do is that we can also prove these things, right? You may come across a question where you have to prove that A union A prime is universal set, right? So once again you have to follow that particular part where you have to take an element X which exists in A, so obviously that particular X, if, or maybe let's say to make it simpler, I'll take that, okay, let X exist in universe of discourse or the universal set. So, and if suppose this X is not in A, so X will not exist in A, but then X will be a part of A prime, right? That means A union A prime will be a subset of universe of discourse, and this universe of discourse will be a subset of this A union A prime. That is, your A union A prime will be equal to this universe of discourse. So that's how you can prove all these theorems or all these laws which we studied just now. And so before closing this particular lecture, let me add another, or maybe the final law to this particular algebra of sets, that is your De Morgan's law. Right, you might be familiar with this particular part. This is your De Morgan's law. So what we have is, what it says is, I have A union B and I have to take the complement, so that would be A complement intersection B complement. And similarly for intersection also we'll have a similar kind of setup. So if A intersection B is whole complement, will be A intersection union B intersection. That's what your De Morgan's law is. And there is another thing which I thought of adding to this particular video before closing it. So there is something called as adding this additional thing. There is something called as disprove, which says A minus B union B minus C is equals to A minus C. Just give a thought on this, and we'll have a separate discussion. What you can do is you can use all these laws which we have previously studied in this particular video a few minutes back, and whatever is added that can be used to prove this particular part, right? All the things, right, from the Venn diagram, or even you're using all these laws, then also that would be very handy in terms of using this particular, or you can say going for this particular disproof. Now this disproof is a very popular term, and I would advise you to go ahead with some amount of reading on this particular topic. So this was all for this particular video, and in our next discussion we will talk about ordered sets. We'll look into the Cartesian product of sets. We'll talk about the properties of Cartesian product. We'll look into the power set. We'll talk about the infinite sets. We'll talk about the equivalent sets. So we have a good content to be covered in the next few videos.